Chapter 11. Investigate. Figure things out for yourself. Spend more time with longer articles. Subsidize investigative journalism by subscribing to print media. Realize that some of what is on the internet is there to harm you. Learn about sites that investigate propaganda campaigns, some of which come from abroad. Take responsibility for what you communicate with others. What is truth? Some people ask the question because they wish to do nothing. Generic cynicism makes us feel hip and alternative, even as we slip along with our fellow citizens into a morass of indifference. It is your ability to discern facts that makes you an individual, and our collective trust in common knowledge that makes us a society. The individual who investigates is also the citizen who builds. The leader who dislikes the investigators is a potential tyrant. During his campaign, former president, claimed on a Russian propaganda outlet that American media has been unbelievably dishonest. He banned many reporters from his rallies and regularly cited hatred of journalists from the public. Like the leaders of authoritarian regimes, he promised to suppress freedom of speech by law that would prevent criticism. Like Hitler, the former president used the word lies to mean statements of fact, not to his liking, and presented journalism as a campaign against himself. Where the Nazis said Lügenpresse, he said fake news. The former president was on a friendlier terms with the internet, his source for erroneous information that he had passed on to millions of people. In 1971, contemplating the lie told in the United States about the Vietnam War, political theorist Hannah Arendt took a comfort in the inherent power of facts to overcome falsehoods in a free society. Under normal circumstances, liar is defeated by reality, for which there is no substitute, no matter how large the tissue of falsehood that an experienced liar has to offer. It will never be large enough, even if he enlists the help of computers to cover the immensity of factuality. The part about the computers is no longer true. In 2016, the presidential election, the two-dimensional world of the internet was more important than the three-dimensional world of human contact. People going door to door to canvass encountered the surprising blinking of American citizens who realized that they would have to talk about politics with a flesh and blood human being rather than having their views affirmed by their Facebook feeds. Within the two-dimensional internet world, new creatives have arisen. Invisible by the light of day, tribes with distinct world views, beholden to manipulations. And yes, there is a conspiracy that you can find online. It is the one to keep you online, looking for conspiracies. We need print journalists so that stories can develop on the page and in our minds. What does it mean, for example, that the former president says that women belong at home, that pregnancies are an inconvenience, and that mothers do not give 100% at work, that women should be pushed for having abortions, that women are slobs, pigs, or dogs, that it is permissible to sexually assault them? What does it mean that 6 of the president's companies have gone bankrupt, and that the president's enterprises have been financed by mysterious infusions of cash from entities in Russia and Kazakhstan? We can learn these things on various media. When we learn these things from a screen, however, we tend to be drawn in by a logic of spectre. When we learn of one scandal, it wheats at our appetite for the next. Once we subliminally accept that we are watching a reality show rather than thinking about real life, no image can actually hurt the president politically. Reality TV must become more dramatic with each episode. If we found a video of the president performing a Cossack dance while Vladimir Putin clapped, we would probably just demand the same thing with the president wearing a bear suit and holding rubles in his mouth. The better print journalists allowed us to consider the meaning, for ourselves and our country, of what might otherwise seem like isolated bits of information. But while anyone can repost an article, researching and writing is hard work that requires time and money. Before you deride the mainstream media, note that it is no longer the mainstream. It is derision that is mainstream and easy. Actual journalism that is edgy and difficult. So try yourself to write a proper article involving work in the real world, traveling, interviewing, maintaining relationships with sources, and researching in written records. verifying everything, writing and revising drafts, all on a tight and unforgiving schedule. If you find you like doing this, keep a blog. In the meantime, give credit to those who do all of that for a living. Journalists are not perfect, any more than people in other vocations are perfect. But work of people who adhere to journalistic ethics is of a different quality than the work of those who do not. We find it natural that we pay for a plumber or a mechanic, but demand our news for free. If we did not pay for plumbing or auto repair, we would not expect to drink water or drive cars. Why then should we form a political judgment on the basis of zero investment? We get what we pay for. If we do not pursue facts, the internet gives us invariable power to convey them. The authorities cited here had nothing of the kind. Leszek Klawowski, the great Polish philosopher and historian, from whom the book takes its epigram, lost his chair at the Warsaw University for speaking against the communist regime, and could not publish. The first quotation in the book from Hannah Arendt came from the pamphlet entitled We Refugees, a miraculous achievement written by someone who had escaped a murderous Nazi regime. A brilliant mind like Victor Klemperer, much admired today, is remembered only because he stubbornly kept a hidden diary under Nazi rule. For him it was sustenance. My diary was my balancing pole, without which I would have fallen down 1,000 times. Mr. Havel, the most important thinker among the communist dissenters of the 1970s, dedicated his most important essay, The Power of the Powerless, to a philosopher who had died shortly after interrogation by the Czechoslovak Communist Secret Police. In communist Czechoslovakia, this pamphlet had to be circulated illegally in a few copies, as what East Europeans at the time, following the Russian dissidents, called samizdat. If the main pillars of the system is living, a lie, wrote Havel, then it is not surprising that the fundamental threat to its living is truth. Since in the age of the internet we are all publishers, each of us bears some private responsibility for the public sense of truth. If we are serious about seeking the facts, we can each make a small revolution in a way that the internet works. If we are verifying information, or if you are verifying information for yourself, you will not send on fake news to others. If you chose to follow a reporter whom you have reason to trust, you can also transmit what they have learned to others. If you retreat only the works of humans who have followed the journalistic protocols, you are less likely to debase your brains interacting with other bots and trolls. We do not see the minds that we hurt when we publish falsehoods, but that does not mean that we do not do harm. Think of driving a car. We must not see the other drivers, but we know not to run into his car. We know that the damage will be neutral. We protect the other person without seeing him, dozens of times every day. Likewise, although we may not see the other person in front of his or her computer, we have our share of responsibility for what is on the screen. And if we can avoid doing violence in the minds of unseen others on the internet, others will learn to do the same. And then perhaps our internet traffic will cease to look like one great bloody accident.